In 2010 and for years and centuries before that, when children were molested and it was swept under the carpet and kept in the dark all the time? Were the good old days, the first 70 years of the 20th century and all the centuries before that, when a woman's place was in the kitchen, and any woman who dared to have an opinion or who wanted a career was shamed and put down and hassled every step of the way? Were the good old days during World War II, when millions of people were killed in battle and millions more were exterminated? Were they in the 30s, when hundreds of millions of people starved all over the world in China and Russia, or were brutally killed? Were the good old days when Jim Crow laws and attitudes ruled everything and millions of lives were destroyed and their spirits killed? Were the good old days back when the first peoples could just be exterminated and then murdered with impunity? And of the few that survived, their children were taken away from them and their entire culture and their language was stomped into the dust. Well, the point of all this is, in so many ways, our lives are better today than they were. Many things are improving and have improved. For sure, right now, a whole lot of the world and our own lives appear to be in a cesspool. It seems like we're choking on it. And at the same time, though, nothing's changed. We all have the ability to dog paddle to the edge of the cesspool, hoist ourselves up, hose ourselves off, dry in the light, and be refreshed and get on with our lives. There is this remarkable ability that humans have that whenever we get stuck clomping into a pasture of new mud and muck, we tend to idealize the time before when we weren't stuck in the mud and muck. Every time we have a new pain, we dearly long for the good old days when we didn't have that pain. But then, because we're so adaptable, we get used to whatever is happening to us, and it doesn't seem quite so bad. We adapt. We get sick, we adapt. We lose a loved one, we adapt. We lose a job or a love, we adapt. But at first, we're howling in pain and screaming, "Poor me, why is this happening to me?" Now, COVID, for many of us, has been this howling and then adaptation and then howling and then adaptation and howling and then adaptation. It's like you get in a flat tire and it ruins your day. And then a few months later, you get another flat tire, ruins your day. And then another few months later, you get another flat tire and you get another flat tire. And finally, you've had so many flat tires, you don't even want to drive to the store anymore because you're worried. You especially don't want to take a long trip. And now it's to the point where many of us are actually hearing a name of someone who's gotten very sick or someone who's died from either our inner circle or outer circles around us. If we allow ourselves to succumb to it, these are indeed frightening times. And it's important to keep in mind something that the second friend in the comic points out that his first friend was miserable, stressed out, and complaining before the COVID hit. And what this means is whatever we were in the past is what we bring to the present. If we were unhappy in the past, it's kind of silly to think that we're suddenly going to be miraculously happy now. And this is a Demonstration of Unity's third basic principle, the law of mind action. Thoughts that we hold in our mind reproduce after their own kind. It's also called the law of inertia. We've all known someone, we've all met someone who thinks that the world is out to get them, or that people are always talking about them behind their back, or that everyone is trying to rip them off or take advantage of them in some way. Well, guaranteed, if you think that everyone's going to rip you off, by golly, it's going to happen to you. You're going to find plenty of people that are willing to rip you off. If you think that you deserve to be poor, you're going to be poor tomorrow. If you think that you are unworthy of love, and that is your belief system, no matter what else is going on, you're not going to find a lot of love, especially when the COVID hits the fan. And on the other side, according to the law of mind action, if you've been going through life looking for goodness in other people, you're going to find it today and tomorrow. If you have been looking for and appreciating beauty in your life, you're going to look for and you're going to see some beauty today and tomorrow also. If truth has been a part of your life quest, you're going to find some truth tomorrow. If we allow ourselves, we can reframe this time and see that there is a great gift in the pandemic. In this cesspool of fear that so many have been swimming in, and at times we ourselves may have been swimming in, is also an opportunity to hone our spirit, to open our soul. If you feel like you can't travel much out in the world, there's another journey to take, and that's the interior journey. Any serious meditator will tell you that there are vast universes inside your own mind. Jesus called it the place of the Most High. So if we feel stuck where we are, and we are willing to look at it with new eyes, we can see that this could be a time when we could start appreciating the little tiny pieces and places in our day-to-day lives that are around us everywhere. If we feel like we have to shelter in place, well then, maybe it's time to read all those books that you bought that you never got around to having time to read, or those magazines that have been sitting piled up. If you are interested in any subject, the greatest library in the history of humanity is right at our fingertips on the internet. That doesn't mean watching cute cat videos all day long. But if there's something you've always wanted to find out about, why not take a dedicated half hour or an hour and look it up? There's so much information out there. You wanted to learn about Italy? You can do it. If you've always been intrigued by how does something work, you can do that too. If you wanted to know about a great artist, you can find every one of their paintings on the internet, and then all kinds of commentary about their life and times and people arguing about what they did. It's fascinating. If you want to know how to change the rear light bulb on your car, there'll be 15 YouTube videos that'll show you how to do it. This is an unprecedented time in human history that we have all of this knowledge at our fingertips. Remember when you used to have to go to the library and get the encyclopedia and look at it to find out a little paragraph or two on some subject? If you've always wanted to write poetry, well, do it. Sit down and start jotting with a pencil and paper, anything. If you've always wanted to plant those flowers that you love, well, this is the time of the year to get busy and start thinking about that and preparing the soil, or buying a pot and planting the seed and giving it a start. So not only is this a time when we can stretch and grow personally to make our lives richer and more satisfying and more fun, it's an opportunity to stretch and exercise our spiritual muscles. It's an opportunity to look around and see if there's a way for us to bring a little more light into ourselves to make our life more meaningful. And it's an opportunity to give some light out to a world that sorely needs it in so many little ways, in meaningful little ways, like saying a kind word to the person on the other side of the counter at the post office, or calling an old friend and saying how you were doing and just actually listening to what they have to say. Sending a quick note or an email to somebody just to touch down. Last month, Lou spoke about a study in which they had discovered that there are 2 words in our language which are the most impactful that you could say to anyone. And those 2 words are thank you. Thank you. If you're stuck in a rut this week, try this. Pick out 5 people that you know, shoot them a quick text or an email, or even write them a little card, and all you got to say is, thinking of you, what I think is very good, thank you. That's it. Now, someone's going to text you back and say, what are you thanking me for? I'm thanking you because you're a good person. Send that back to them. Or even be specific and say, you know, years ago when you did this for me, it really meant a lot. Thank you. Imagine if someone did that to you. How would you feel? You'd feel so good. We all have the power to change someone's life and at the same time make ourselves feel good. Now, this is probably a bold statement, but not really. Every single one of us that's here right now today is here because we want to assist in making the world a better place. That's what attracts us to this moment of being together today, that we want to make the world, the universe, better. Now, we're all here today because of one person, Myrtle Fillmore. She is the very first person that started driving this bus called Unity. And she is the genesis for us all being together today. If she hadn't lived, we wouldn't be here together at this moment. And she was an incredibly hip woman, and very powerful. And she wrote something in which she was talking about the new year. And she says, the very word new gives a welcome, because there's something in the makeup of humankind that craves the freshness that this word suggests. So why not give the word new a place in every day? Why not, on First Awakening, remind ourselves that this is a fresh, new day. It's full of opportunities and fragrant with possibilities. The restrictions of yesterday have no power to overshadow our lives today. The restrictions of yesterday have no power to overshadow our lives today when we realize we are in the eternal now. Let us begin our day with newness of thought and courage. Let us, at the beginning of the new year, throw open the doors of our hearts and homes to the new, This newing process begins in the mind. Carry this into every detail of your life. Begin with the years and scatter them first. See yourself new, fresh, and full of vigor. And then, by the process of transforming, change everything you have to deal with daily. That which was irksome and stale now takes on a fresh, new delight. Whoa, go Myrtle. Today is a new day, fragrant with possibilities. These flowers right here are from narcissus bulbs that my sister dug up next to an old mine near the ghost town of Cherokee on the Feather River where she lives. They're a hardy, sturdy, old heirloom variety. Too much sun, too much shade, drought doesn't seem to bother them. They still thrive and they smell good. They are wonderfully fragrant and perfumey. And Myrtle is pointing out that we can have a fragrant day every day. She says the restrictions of the past have no power over us. So what are the restrictions of the past? Some of them are guilt or shame, regret, anger, fear, resentments, COVID. All these have no power over us when we realize that we live in the eternal now. She says that our freedom begins first in our mind. Our freedom begins in our mind. And this is such a beautiful image. It's reminiscent of Romans 12:2, which says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Do not conform to the pattern of this world, to the pattern of fear, to the pattern of divisive politics, to the pattern of COVID, but be transformed by renewing your mind. Myrtle makes another beautiful twist on an old image. She says to open our hearts and our homes to the new. Imagine going to your front door, opening it up, and new ideas, new projects, fun, good people are coming rushing in your front door. She says that we can transform, and that which was irksome and stale takes on a new, fresh delight. I don't know about you, but I could use some fresh new delight in my life. But the practical reality of this is that some days we wake up and the last thing we feel is delight. And then maybe we check out the news and then we get depressed. So we need a jump start. How about some metaphysical caffeine? And where do we get that? Well, we've all heard or we've all been taught that prayer and meditation are beautiful ways to get out of the wheel spinning and move into the infinite, into the eternal now. But sometimes that just seems too heavy. Almost every one of us has some pictures of people who we love hanging in our house or on our desk or on our wall. Stephen's got hundreds of pictures of things that he loves. I have pictures behind me that are Japanese woodblock prints that I love, but I hardly ever look at them. But when I take the time to just stand in 20 or 30 seconds and look at it, I go, oh, and I'm transformed out of this stuff in my mind to a new place. If we walk out our front door and look at a tree, we can thank it for giving us oxygen. Taking a walk in nature is remarkably transformative. Some of you may know or have heard of Leilani Burt. She was one of my mentor ministers. She and I spent years together. She's the one who developed Unity's chaplaincy program. In fact, it was her chaplain's newsletter that had that Myrtle Fillmore quote that I just read. And Leilani's favorite way to change her mind, to regroove her thinking, was to say, fake it till you make it. She told herself that all the time, and she would tell me that. She'd go, David, when I was whining about something, she'd go, fake it till you make it. It's taken me years to understand the power of that little phrase, of that little affirmation. It works like this. Suppose you come up to me and say, hi, David, how you doing? And I say, oh, my back's been killing me. I have a hard time sleeping. I wake up all the time. And my sister's got cancer. And the puppy chewed up one of my favorite LL Bean slippers. Well, what's going to happen next is you'll probably tell me about some ache or pain you have, about somebody you know that had cancer, and about the time years ago when the puppy chewed up your wallet. And then, through the law of mind actions, we are replicating our bummers. But if you say, David, how you doing? And I make a conscious choice to fake it till I make it, and I say, whoa, it's kind of pretty today. I love how the grass is turning green in the hills. And I saw the mustard blooming the other day in a vineyard. And these beautiful narcissus are blooming along my driveway. I just love it. Well, you'll probably tell me about something cool that you saw, and you'll agree, yeah, it is nice that the hills are turning green. It is nice that we got the rain. And so, through the physics of the law of mind action, our minds together are now producing beautiful, fragrant thoughts. And both of us feel good. We've forgotten about our backs and our bummers. Endorphins are moving through us in a really positive way. That's a good thing. So right now, let's just fake it a little bit and move out of our day-to-day stuff and shut our eyes. Let's just shut our eyes for a moment. Take a breath and be inspired by Hokusai. Hokusai is probably the most famous artist that ever came out of Japan. He was born in 1760, and he went through many different artistic phases. He produced over 30,000 paintings, woodblock prints, and sketches, which he left behind. He was a huge influence on the French Impressionists. He's most well known for his vivid blue ocean waves with white foam coming off them. He did a long series of them. And most of us have seen those waves. His many works inspired a modern poet, Roger Keyes, to write this. Hokusai says, look carefully. He says, pay attention, notice. He says, keep looking, stay curious. He says, there is no end to seeing. He says, look forward to getting old. He says, keep changing. You just get more who you really are. He says, get stuck, accept it, repeat yourself as long as it's interesting. He says, keep doing what you love. He says, keep praying. He says, every one of us is a child. Every one of us is ancient. Every one of us has a body. He says, every one of us is frightened. He says, every one of us has to find a way to live with fear. He says, everything is alive, shells, buildings, people, fish, mountains, trees, wood is alive, water is alive. Everything has its own life. Everything lives inside us. He says, live with the world inside of you. He says, it doesn't matter if you draw or write books. It doesn't matter if you saw wood or catch fish. It doesn't matter if you sit at home and stare at the ants on your porch or the shadows of the trees and grasses in the gardens. He says, it matters that you care. He says, it matters that you feel. He says, it matters that you notice. It matters that life lives through you. He says, contentment is life living through you. Joy is life living through you. Satisfaction and strength are life living through you. Peace is life living through you. He says, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Look, feel, let life take you by the hand. Let life live through you. Let life live through you. We'll sit quietly now with your eyes closed. And in the spirit of Hokusai, imagine that you are 3 years old. You are 3 years old. And you've been taken to a place in the country where you've never been before. And that loving, big person that you trust so well has bundled you up and taken you outside and told you that you're going for a walk in a magic land. And as you come to the gate to go out, like the little toddler you are, you lift up your hand, knowing and trusting that this loving person will take it and hold you. And that you will be safe as you venture into this new landscape. And that trusted, loving presence is life itself holding your hand. Life is taking you exploring without judgment, or expectation. Just wander out into the mystical, magical garden of nature. Don't be tethered by reality even. Just let your mind float and allow yourself to be led into a paradise of beauty. A paradise of beauty. Magic. Mystical. Nature. Oh, yes. Yes. There is an infinite garden of great beauty in the interior garden of our mind. There's magic. There's new ways of seeing. Fragrant possibilities are available in our mind and in our outer world every day. And you are a child of God. It is your birthright to have this beauty. And like the heirloom narcissus, you are strong. You are sweet. You are hardy. You are able to withstand whatever life throws at you. For you are an heir to the kingdom of God. You deserve the best. You deserve to have love. You deserve to do what you love. And you have strength living through you and divine wisdom moving through you to allow you to flow gracefully through any situation that you encounter. And you will have many more ups than downs. And the downs even you will appreciate because they make the ups so much more sweeter. You will have a wonderful, heart-centered life. And we hold this for you in the name and through the power of the living Christ. And because our minds think this one thought, and our hearts beat with this single vibration, our words become the law in the universe. And so it is, now and forever and ever. Amen.